poi rimetteremo sulla piattaforma.
Yes.
But in Remtech Europe, this is one of the exact.
Okay, in inertia, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Can I spend some words for inertia?
Yes, please, absolutely, because this is a shared session between Remtech Europe and Inertia.
Okay. Okay, fine. Thank you, Marco.
Okay, no problem. You're welcome.
I'm just looking at the different time zones. So this session is still okay for most of them.
Yes. It's Gianfranco France. I have a problem to find the code.
So maybe we can resend the email that that we have received.
I can hear you, but I don't know if maybe he cannot see us.
You
Marco,
can hear me?
can you send to Marco's still
Yes,
there? Can you send
online,
to this?
Hello?
Gianfranco, if you can hear me, I will send you the link, connection link. Try to jump in again, go down and jump in again, and join with your computer audio. Okay, if possible, it will be easier for managing everything. Okay, just a moment. I will send you the link.
I don't know, Eva Anderson makes a question.
Oh yeah, I suppose that's the question, and apparently all the sessions a priori are recorded.
Are recorded. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll come back quickly.
Eva Anderson, I see that it's impossible to see session number 4 and 6. So we will ask Marco Falconi, maybe he will provide some additional input for this. Maybe there were some technical problems, so we will ask him and maybe we'll have the results.
Okay, I'm back. Just a moment. Here I am. Piotr, sorry. I understand that there is a question in the chat in the moment we are.
Yeah, so it was a question about recording, if every session is recorded, and this one as well. And that there is a problem with seeing the session 4 and 6. Apparently, it was impossible to see the video of session 4 and 6. Maybe
4 and 6. Okay, it's I don't know. They should contact our through the chat inside the platform, Remtech platform. They should ask the let's say the people there, the technicians, and report maybe what is not working, maybe their brother or their situation. I don't know. So I cannot answer to this. Just contact the people in the technical side of Remtech.
I see that the room is getting fuller, so it's okay.
when we get 50, maybe we can start.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm here. Good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon.
It's Gianfranco Franz. Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. We can hear you. We can see your webcam. So then we'll be sharing presentation.
Thank you, and sorry for.
Laura, I guess you can start because we are getting late.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. We are here for the session number 8. The session is on circular economy, how to apply in the context of the European Green Deal. And I thank you all for being here, and I would like also to thank the co-chair who are here with me, Giuliana Rolla of Prenatura and Piotr Wojda, I suppose,
yes,
from European Commission GRC. It's my pleasure to be here because this topic is quite important to me, to my organization. I am Laura Cotaglia from Enea, and Enea is the second largest research center in Italy, and we are working within our department for sustainability in several topics related to the circular economy. I would like also to spend some words on inertia in particular, which is the part of RemTech fair, which is addressed in particular to the sector of construction and demolition, construction sector and demolition waste, and all what is related with. And there are several years that Inertia is working on these topics, and these topics are really important to Italy because of several issues, because the huge impact of construction and demolition waste in Italy, and the very big impact that construction sector has in the environment and also in the consumption of environmental resources and coming from mining sector and quarrying sector. In Italy, this problem is quite important given the huge amount of this kind of waste, and also given the really important part of the GDP, which is and was, particularly in the past, coming from this sector. And also given the problem that we have at the moment, because the transition of this sector, of this specific sector, from the production of materials to the construction of buildings, the use of buildings to the end of the production of construction demolition waste, is quite difficult to move this huge value chain, towards the new model of circular economy, given all the complex aspects that are related to these sectors. I mean, for example, the role of local authorities in tender, the market constraints, in Italy, the regulation, which is, for example, for quarry activities, is different between regions, and so on. There are several issues that are related to this very, very important general theme. And it's also my pleasure to co-chair this session, which is, let me say, the international one within the Inertia co-sessions. And to have here the possibility to have the point of view of the Environmental Commission, also the contribution of several several people coming from different sides of the world. I give the floor to the other co-speech, co-hosting, and in particular to Juliana to present herself, and then to Piotr to present himself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. As Laura told, my name is Juliana Rola, and I'm the director of Pro Natura International in Minas Gerais state in Brazil. I do also other activities as I'm the CEO of EcoBee Solutions, director of the Brazilian Union of Quality, director of the Minas Gerais Engineering University, president of Sigma Science Technology and the Innovation Institute, and another activities that I will not speak along. But as Pro Natura, our activities based on the arbitrating and minimizing the impacts of large projects in vulnerable regions, and we are now acting through the implementation of the shared value platform. This shared value platform is a conjunction ideas with the IFC, the World Bank arm, and Harvard and the World Bank's 2030 World Resource Group, and as well as Madeira Global. And it's a new methodology developed to promote a long-term sustainable, inclusive, and climate-friendly development, especially in vulnerable regions, which large-scale investments are expected or is already happening. So tomorrow, Dr. Marcelo, our chairman, will also speak about that. If you want to know more about it, it's a very interesting. And now we are starting a pilot project in Minas Gerais. So in the next year, we will be able to speak about the results. Okay, thank you. Sorry, and now I pass the words to Peter, and please.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to co-chair this session. I'm Piotr Wojda. I work for the European Commission Joint Research Center. I think that from the political point of view, it's a perfect timing. The conference is coming here to the point because European Commission with all stakeholders is working on the new European Green Deal. So I think it's a great opportunity to participate to it. And we see that we are developing action plans actually to boost the efficient use of resources, moving to clean, circular economy and restoring biodiversity and cutting pollution. So I think that the Green Deal, which is also the great subject of this session, is touching upon a lot of policy areas. Just to mention biodiversity, farm to fork, so sustainable agriculture, clean energy, and some others are very important. Maybe just to mention that very recently, the President von der Leyen of the European Commission in her State of the Union address was also mentioning the Green Deal. I think what is very important here is reducing emissions. She of course mentioned a more ambitious plan. Then we are talking a lot about carbon border adjustment mechanism and also about how to finance everything which is connected to the Green Deal, and then conversion, and then the work to be done. Last but not least, the European Bauhaus. So we are talking about architects, about engineers, about designers, all together to make Europe let's say, the architectural state of art. So, and to see how to subscribe it. So I think that the session touching upon Green Deal is very important session. And let's listen to the first presentation by Laura, which is about the circular economy in the construction sector within the European framework, and then activities. So I think that then she will speak about the core subject here. Thank you very much. And Laura, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm sharing my screen now. This one. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we see your screen. You can put full screen.
Okay.
Presentation. Thank you.
Now, okay, I have about 15 minutes to go through this presentation. In this presentation, I would like to show very quickly some important points, some important tools and strategy produced by the European Commission in these years related to this topic, the construction sector, for moving this the construction sector towards the sustainability and now towards the circular economy. There are several tools and strategies produced from the European Commission starting from 98. The first one was the EU Waste Framework Directive. In this directive, the most important point related to our topic is that we should reach the goal of the reduction, reusing of 70% by weight of construction demolition waste, and this is today's goal. Then we have the construction to 2020 strategy in 2012. Then again, the resource efficiency opportunity in the building sector from 2014. And then the protocol for construction demolition waste protocol in 2016. Recently, we have the last year and this year, the European Green Deal and the Circular Economy Action Plan. Both of them are also related to the construction sector. The first one with several topics related to this sector, in particular, the Green Deal with the aim for renovation way for the building sector in 2020, and for a revision for the construction products regulation and promoting the design of new and renovated buildings oriented towards the circular use of resources. Then there are several policies linked to the previous one, for example, of mining, quarrying activities, and waste management. More recently, in 2020, there is the new Circular Economy Action Plan for a cleaner and more competitive Europe. And within this plan, there are several issues also connected to the construction sector. Some points are, for example, the durability and adaptability of the built assets, the application of life cycle assessment into the public procurements, and the revision of material recovery targets with a focus on insulation materials. This one related, I suppose, with the energy directive. And last but not least, the safe and circular use of excavated soil to reduce soil sealing. Before going further with the activity of Enea, I would like to stress the point that despite this really important scenario coming from the European Commission, in Italy and in our direct application, day by day, today's application, there are several problems in moving the circular economy, the value chain of construction sector in Italy towards a complete circular economy approach, because several reasons from the practice used by stakeholders in the value chains to the internal regulation for example, the mining sector and the quarrying sector, and also the ability, also the possibility for example, for local authorities to use different schemes and different approach for making, for example, roads or whatever, differently than what done before. Because it's quite difficult to move towards a new model when you have to be the first front in doing this. So we need to adapt from the head of the system till the last point of the value chain, also including, for example, companies involved in the construction sector directly, provider of materials, and so on. So it is a quite complex system to be renewed and to be redesigned according to this new circular economy approach. In Enea, we are working in the area of the circular economy in different value chains. Construction sector is one of these, and we are working on this both with non-financed activities and also financed activities. Within the non-financed or voluntary activities where Enea as a public research body participates, is the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform, where we are part of the coordination group and where we are doing some activities, as we can see, following on construction sectors. Then we have promoted the Italian Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform, which is a sort of mirror platform of the European one. And now we are also participating to the Green Building Council for Italy, in Italy, for the, in particular for the sector, working on the guidelines for the circular design of buildings. I mentioned here 3 projects where we are working in this moment. The first one is the Interreg project Condref, which will be presented from Alessandro Drago after. The second one is the Decorum project, was a project financed by the funds of Lazio region. And at the end, the ESPA, Energy and Sustainability for Public Administration, which is an ongoing project financed by FESR. Few words on the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. This one is, as probably someone from you know, but in general, is an initiative from the European Economic and Social Committee and the European Commission together for, let me say, improving the knowledge and the awareness on circular economy of European stakeholders. And we, as coordination group, worked in the last 3 years, this one is the 3rd year, in be ambassador for circular economy within Europe. And the HS works as network of networks, and in this regards, with this sense, we are in Italy, we launched the mirror platform, ICESP, the Italian Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. Within HSP, at the moment, we are working on the preparation of a workshop that will be presented during the second day of the annual conference of HSP, that will be on the 3rd and 4th November 2020 by online. And on the second day, there are several workshops. One of these is on the construction sector, and myself, and European Environmental Bureau are working on this, and we will share this workshop. For this workshop, we have prepared also an orientation paper, trying to put together the issues and also the problems that we focus during our activity to be addressed to the European Commission for a common discussion. So the workshop will be for November 2020 online for everyone who will be interested in following this. Then there is another initiative, is the Italian Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. This is a platform led by Enea, but there are several stakeholders participants in this platform. There are over 100 stakeholders that have signed the agreement for the collaboration, but there are several more than 100 people working in the working groups. What is the aim? Which is the aim of this platform? Is at national level working on several topics of circular economy and focusing on problems, opportunities, and also, let me say, proposal for the government and stakeholders to overcome problems and to go towards a more circular approach to the system that we are focusing on. There is a specific subgroup of construction demolition within the working group 4, which is addressed to let me say companies, okay, and it is also another working subgroup on construction demolition waste within the working group 5, which is addressed in particular on circular cities and territory. Few words on CONDREF. CONDREF, that will be presented by Lo Sandrago after, is an Interreg project. So this is an international project on for making a protocol on a better waste management of construction and demolition waste. So the final address of the project is to build tools, protocols, guidelines, whatever, good practice and whatever, to make the most to overcome the problems to have construction demolition waste unused within Europe. Another project which is ended now is the Quorum. The Quorum was financed by Regione Lazio and the European Commission. Shortly, what is the goal of this project? Is to build a sort of protocol in order to let the stakeholders that are at every level involved in the value chain of construction sector, in particular to construction where local authorities are involved, so for example, road construction, to use accordingly the exact standards for going toward a circular approach for the road construction. So using, for example, secondary materials and so on. And also to have a point where fine secondary materials. Sorry?
2 minutes left.
Yes, quite finished. And also have a point where fine materials which are able to be used in this way. So one of the most important output of the project was this protocol, which is a sort of tool for stakeholders, for example, for engineers, but also for local authorities. The third one project, which is the last one, is a project as for energy sustainability for the public administration. This project is not a technical one, is more a project for the public administration to let the local authorities have the tools for managing the world of value chain of construction and demolition in a more sustainable way and also in a more circular way. So there are several topics on this, several tasks on this project. The first one is providing guidelines for the environmental certification of buildings for the public authorities. And the last two are two parallel topics. The first one is the last one in the slide, is a review of technology to transform the stock of materials into reusable and recyclable products. We mean in this regards for the construction demolition, for the construction sector, to have the picture, a framework of plans of technologies that are available in Italy and are available in general for making the most to reuse the construction demolition waste. And the first one, the 3.2, is to have an idea, a quantification on the amount of stocks that are at the moment blocked in buildings or whatever, that in the future, in time by time, will be available to be reused, in order to take this information into account for future assessment and programming. Thank you very much. For me, it's I think that's enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Laura, for this excellent overview of different activities. If there are some questions, we'll have some time at the end of the sessions. Please, Juliana, you can introduce the next presentation.
Of course, thank you. With a pleasure, I introduce Mr. Nicolas, that will speak about the natural clays of a coal tar contaminate sites to stabilize hydrocarbons, reduce their ecotoxicity, and make cement. Please, Nicolas.
Thank you, Juliana. I hope you are hearing me clear.
Yeah.
And thank you. Hello, everybody. First, I want to thank the organizing committee for this opportunity regarding to present our work regarding opportunistic strategies of management. My presentation is about the assessment of on-site coal tar stabilization with natural clay present into a contaminated site as a local resource and free resource, and the feasibility of recycling this contaminated material in cement production. The fact is that coal tar contaminations are quite common since, for example, they represent more than 10% of the indexed contamination sites in the French database. This contamination result from industrial activities like steelwork industry, or past activities like gas plants, or creosote production for wood preservation activities. Unfortunately, there are still many sites with spillages which threat the human and ecosystem safety because of the hazardous compounds present in this complex liquid mixture of hydrocarbons. Especially, they contain compounds, hazardous compounds such as pH in high amount that require incineration above 800 Celsius degrees to be destroyed, but there are also very mobile and toxic compounds like BTEX. Coal tars are very viscous and difficult to handle. After their spillage, they sink into the soil until they reach a low permeability layer, and often they're wetting the soil very strongly, which makes them very difficult to remove. Plumes of contaminants occur both in gas and in aqueous phase, which threats the environment and resource quality for long times because of the delayed releases. And you can see in the flask the distribution of a tar in contact with water, and you can see a light and a dense non-aqueous phase, and how the aqueous phase is charging with dissolved organic carbon with time. The removal from storage tanks in decommissioned site is not easy because of the viscous and sticky liquids, and their management is made difficult because of dissemination risk, restrictive regulation on pH contaminated waste, and acceptance conditions. Among the various ways of management, stabilization solidification facilitates their handling and then their possible recycling. Sawdust is often used when incineration is selected, but the sticky material obtained does not reduce much the VOC's emissions. We met this situation in a former steelwork industry mega site in decommission in Eastern Europe. You can see the open air and broken tanks with spillage and tar infiltration into the ground. The tar was neutral with similar amounts in VOCs and SVOCs, and pH were the major contaminants, then BTX, and metal concentrations here in green were quite low except for manganese and iron. The lowest heating value of the coal tar made it interesting as a substitute for fuel oil in cement plant. In that context, natural clay could be interesting material for solidification stabilization of coal tars because of their high specific surface area, but also their strong capillary properties. In addition, strong and irreversible interactions between natural clays and tensioactive compounds present in asphalts have been reported since the 80s. After crushing the material, the clay, at the submillimeter size and mixed together with the coal tar, you can obtain viscous liquids to powders. And once it is handy, this could be interesting to be used for cement production since this process requires both energy to make lime and clay as a constituent besides lime. Then, the study first aimed at assessing a free natural clay material available on the contaminated site. This material was elite, and to assess it as a binder for coal tar stabilization solidification. Given the matrices and possible further treatments such as aeration or incineration at 800 Celsius degrees, contaminant mobility was assessed through the measurement of their transfer into the gas and aqueous phases, whereas hazards were assessed both using snails for direct and indirect contacts and the solid states using the hatching rates of freshwater snails. Finally, exchanges with the Attils group allowed assessing the feasibility of recycling the most promising clay tar matrices in cement production. In brief, pellets easy to handle were obtained in that range of coal tar mass fractions. This material prevents any leakage, any tar leakage, and it corresponds approximately to minima in organic compounds transfer potential to the gas and to the aqueous phases. About the ecotoxicity test, they confirmed the decreased hazards of the pellets. However, when freshly prepared, the pellets still release toxic contaminants such as Vitex, whereas 1 month aging made a hard crust and decreased the permeability of the interface because of SVOC's precipitation as previously reported. Also, after pellet incineration at 800 Celsius degree, no ecological damage was observed anymore in the tested population, but the black color of the material remained. Finally, regarding the feasibility of recycling the clay tar pellets in cement production, things are a little bit complicated despite some positive factors. Indeed, solid material used to produce cement, like contaminated soils, are limited by some acceptance rule, like low contaminant concentration thresholds in the ppm range, smell of the material, and the induced coloration of the cement in this case. So to conclude, the management strategies aiming at recycling contaminated waste with hazardous compounds are limited and should be set up as soon as possible with all the involved stakeholders. Here in this article, you can find more information about this work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicolas. And now for your speech, in the end, we will open to the questions, okay? And now, Peter, I pass you to introduce the next one.
Thank you very much, Juliana. So next presentation. I've heard that the cities are responsible of a lot of carbon emissions, consumption of natural resources, and waste production. So let's see the presentation of Circular City and Circularity in City by Gianfranco Franz. The floor is yours. Trying to get to Gianfranco Franz. We have seen him before, yes, Gianfranco.
Yes, you hear me now? Yes.
Yes, I can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
we can see you.
Thank you. And I have to apologize with you because when I suggested my my presentation to the organizer of Remtech some months ago, I was suggesting something very theoretical, and in the contrary, this section is really pragmatic, and so I cannot make my presentation as I was supposing before, but anyway, I have some ideas about the circularity in the city. Usually when we are speaking about circular economy, we are speaking always processes of production and how to reuse materials, etc., etc. And this is normal, and this paradigm of urban circularity is very recent, and we have not a lot of experiences and practices, and many authors are also the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is writing about this problem that is quite new, the problem or the practices of urban circularity. Anyway, as you know, cities are responsible for the 70% of greenhouse gas emissions, and probably in the future it would be more than today. And so, of course, we have to take care about industry, about problem of natural resources, and how to reduce and how to reuse and recycle, etc., etc. But the problem is how to make possible to cities to manage in a circular way a lot of domains, a lot of sectors that today are not managed in this way. In Europe, we have probably less than a dozen of cities prepared, already prepared in this field, Amsterdam or Copenhagen or some other cities in Netherlands, or also Milan in Italy. But in Italy, we have probably 1, 2, 3 cities that are working seriously in the management of circularity in the city. Of course, we have companies working within the city, but the municipalities are not prepared, and citizens are not, they don't know what means circularity in economy, circularity in the city, etc. And this because the big mistake of Europe since probably 30, 40 years is to invest only in technology, to invest only in science and data, but not in culture, not in popularization of research results or new paradigms, etc. And I usually, when I speak about circular cities, I speak about the model, the smart city model that was failing completely just because the discussion about smart city was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, was done only in the technological domain. And smart is technological innovation. And if you want to be smart, you have to invest in ICT and smart grid, etc. So at least for Italy, but not only Italy, we didn't advance a lot in the culture of smart city. Thanks to COVID pandemic, of course, now many cities, many people is understanding what they are understanding what is the relevance of the smart city paradigm, and this could be the problem of the circular model. So, in my opinion, it would be important for the Green New Deal, the Green Deal, to invest a lot towards municipalities. Municipalities are not prepared. And I'm speaking about Italy. I am an urban planner. I know very well many cities and many municipalities, how they are working. And I'm sure that small, medium-sized municipalities, they are not prepared. And small and medium companies of the building sector, usually they reuse materials and drawings from the building demolition, but in the rough system, not in a very advanced recycling and reusing paradigm. So, and this because they are not prepared, and the informations are still too complex and complicated, too scientific based, theoretically and scientific based. There is not a sort of filtering down, and this is usually the result from the big efforts of European Community, European Union research, Horizon 2020, etc., and the real life. There is not the filtering down. We are investing a lot of billions in innovation, but this innovation in the research of innovation, but this innovation usually, as you know perfectly, is not materializing in the reality. This could be, I see, the problem of the circular economy paradigm and the circularity in the city. And I want, just closing my presentation, my speech, I want to make clear that being an architect, the city was always been circular. The ancient city has been always circular. Let me quote the Colosseum. Colosseum was a sort of cave of bricks and stone for century. But Piazza Navona was the stadium of Domitian, and now is one of the most beautiful square in the world. And what about the Split Diocletian Palace? The historical center of Split is the palace of the Diocletian emperor, and now is a historic center. This is a perfect example, a perfect sample and model of circularity. So when we speak about circular city, we never spend one word in culture and heritage. We are speaking always about innovation, always about scientific innovation, and people doesn't like this, doesn't understand this. So it would be very important to spend some words also in explaining that our grandfathers, they were circular. They used to reuse everything. Only 50 years ago, 60, 70 years ago, and the city was basically circular, and linear, growing, always building new buildings and activities, but also always reusing, recycling, and refurbishing buildings and spaces in the city. So I want to conclude only with this warning. Technologies without culture, without sensibility and humanities, without arts and novels, without the storytelling storytelling will not save our proposing from the climate change, etc., etc. And for this reason, we have to invest also in something that is not only data. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gianfranco, for this new vision considering culture in the processes. And now I will leave the floor to Juliana to introduce the next speaker.
Yes, to speak about the construction and demolition waste management policies for improved resource efficiency, we will speak Mr. Alessandro Drago, please. Okay. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll try to share my presentation. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Alessandro Drago. I'm a policy officer of Lazio region, and I'm actually working for the Condor project as policy officer. And I'm going to introduce you to this very important project for us, where Lazio region is playing a part of a partner, as well as the ENEA, the National Agency for New Technologies, Energy, and Sustainable Development Economy. Basically, CONDERF project, CONDERF is an acronym. It's an acronym of Construction and Demolition Waste Management Policies for Improved Resource Efficiency. And it is a project, an action funded by the Interreg Europe program. Interreg Europe program, for those of you who do know that, it's a mainstream program aimed at influencing directly the territorial policies. So the main scope of this program is to foster the improvement of decision makers and territorial policies. This project, CONDERF project, was approved in 2018. It's going to last 5 years. And as any Interreg Europe project, it lasts 5 years in 2 different phases. The first phase is for 3 years, from 2018 to 2021. The second phase is the 2021-2023. These 2 phases are very important because they explain how the Interreg Europe program works. Basically, this program, as I said, is aimed to enhance the territorial policy. In this case, we are talking about environmental policies. As maybe all of you know, the environmental policies is at the European level a concurrent legislation, which means that the European institution, especially the Commission, can approve decisions, can approve directives, or even regulations, which have to be adopted by any single member state. Well, this program helps to somehow let's say, improve and enhance the sound implementation of these policies. In these specific cases, we are talking about the construction and demolition waste management. So this project helps us, we are a territorial government in Italy, to analyze and to find the right solution for a sound implementation of direction on wastes, so the waste direction, and the existing regulation, and probably even the future regulation on this specific field. CONDERF project is funded by the ERDF funds for an overall amount of, is co-funded, sorry, for an overall amount of 1.6 million euros. We are 8 partners for 7 different countries, mainly universities, research centers, and territorial organization institutions like Lazio region, or for instance, the regional government of Styria in Austria, or the region of Thessaly in Greece. And we are supported by a strong board of agencies and universities, like the leader, which is the University of the Polytechnic University of Valencia, the ENEA, as I said before, and the Institute for Structural Policy and Economic Development from Germany. And of course, there is another important region, which is the Pardubice region from the Regional Development Agency in Czech Republic. Directly, the objective of this project, as I said before, is to support the development of policy frameworks and capacity building of the partner areas in specific field of the waste management, like construction and demolition waste management regulations, public procurement practices, something that the professor before was saying about the municipalities is the same at the regional level. We have some problems in applying public procurement practices, especially in these specific fields like the waste management, landfill restrictions, recycling facilities, public perception, awareness, and acceptance. These are all aspects which can help us going towards a sustainable management of C&D waste. And the results expected from these objectives is the transfer of the lessons learned into regional policies and action plans of the contract partners. So you have to think that this program finances project to let's say to transfer the best practices we may find among partner countries in order to transfer them into the political field in other territories. So to do this, we have first to identify the good practices in each partner countries in order to consider them meritorious for transfer into another. To do this, we have started with a methodology. Our methodology is strongly based on EU protocol for the sustainable management of C&D waste. The protocol for us is very important. Personally, and as a region, we decided to enter into this project because we perceived the idea and the possibility, which somehow is even an opportunity for us, that this EU protocol, because it is very well designed, could become a new directive in time. And this is the same idea we have commonly shared with other partners, starting from the Polytechnic University of Valencia and other partners like the Styria regions. So the EU protocol for us is not just a starter point, but it's even a point of arrival should this become a new directive from the European Commission. I don't know if I'm still sharing my presentation. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost your presentation.
Okay.
Sorry, Celen, share it again. Celen, stop your presentation. You are after.
Okay. Can you see my presentation now?
Yes, your presentation is back.
Great. Okay, so I go further. Basically, the thing is that, as I said, the EU protocol for us is a starting point, but could become even a point of should this EU protocol become a new directive or providing principles to a new directive, European directive on construction and demolition waste management. So the EU protocol for us is going to strengthen the transition towards circular economy in order to have a more improved resource efficient use. So as I said before, we have to identify the good practices present in the partner countries which are in line with the provisions of the EU protocol and to transfer them into the partner policy instruments through a monitor action plan. So far, we have identified 7 action plans aiming at improving 7 policy instruments addressed. It is good to mention even the project management approach we have used, because we have used an integrated approach, basically working on different aspects which can foster the adaptation of provisions from the EU protocol. Basically 5 actions, integrated actions, are being carried out in this project. We use the joint thematic studies and analysis, which are basically desk research and in-depth analysis. The stakeholder policy learning, including public dialogue, which is very important for us because of course, the participation of everybody, especially those interested in this field, is very important for us. Interregional learning and capacity building, so meaning workshops, study visits, and EU summit too, and the policy improvement tools and resources, as well as policy instruments impact. Each action of these can improve and provide input to other action. For instance, I won't mention all of them, but just to make you an idea, the joint thematic studies provides input to interregional learning capacity building, as well as policy improvement tools and resources and policy instruments impacts. It's the same for the stakeholder policy learning, which can create consensus to ensure the policy instrument impact. So we started saying that this is a policy program and this is a policy project. So technical basis is very important for us. And it's not a case that the lead partner is a polytechnic university, but our main goal is to transfer the good practices in our policy. To do that, we need to have a sound knowledge of technical matters, but we even know how to make it, to transfer it, which means to identify the right policy instrument, which could be an ERDF policy instrument as well, and to fund the good practices identified in other countries in order to implement it in our territory. So the project outputs, operatively, the project outputs we are going to produce are 7 action plans aiming to improve the 7 policy instruments addressed. For instance, in our case, in the case of Lazio region, we decided to identify an important policy instrument, which is within our 2014-2020 axis of REOP, ERDF program, which means we are going to impact on the ERDF funds in order to invest in specific good cases we are searching and we are identifying in other partner countries. And so in order to impact and shift our policies, we have to identify the good practices and then to transfer it through our policy instruments, in this case, ERDF funds. So we have 3 interregional workshops, 1 exchange of experience visit, and 1 policy industry symposium. 42 regional stakeholders meetings, as I said before, it's very important to include, to make people participate, especially the PMI, the SMEs, or for instance, the associations and organizations interested in the construction and demolition waste management. 7 regional building confidence meetings. The confidence meetings are very important, even to create consensus and to create confidence in a way, because this is, as you know, is a matter which is not very much discussed, not only at political level, but generally, and needs to be reinforced. I mean, knowledge and sensitiveness needs to be reinforced in the territories. So 10 policy briefs to transfer lessons learned behind the partnership. We are producing policy brief. Policy briefs are position documents that we are producing internally within our board of participants to the project in order to exchange ideas and to give outside our network an idea of what we are doing in this project, how we see, how we perceive the project implementation, and how we can contribute to enhance the policy towards the C&D waste management. 1 track and change C&D waste toolkit, 1 compendium of best practices, and 4 joint thematic studies and analyses. So to be more operative, let's go inside the project. How we do identify the good practices? Well, the policy improvements needs tools and resources. In order to identify the good practices, what we mean for a good practice in our partner countries, we want to say that these are good practices which prove to be successful. To prove to be successful means that they have been implemented in the territories and they are sustainable, not only at technical level, but financially, economically, and socially. So they are accepted and they can walk on their feet. Basically, they can be maybe initially funded by public funding or a private-public partnership, but then after they can go on their feet. So they can be basically implemented by even private or association in a different ways. So action 4.1 is the improvement of methodology and tools for tracking and tracing waste generated by construction and demolition, and collect the best practices for our territory. This is a very important action to identify the right tools. And action 4.3 is the participation in policy learning platforms. As I said, we are working on two different levels. First, the technical one, which enables us to activate ourselves in a specific field. On the other side, the participation is very important for the policy learning and for involving the political parts, which is a condition without which it's impossible to activate and to transfer good practices. We have identified 4 different categories, which you can read here. So the first one is identification, separation, and categorization of waste management. This category includes good practices carried out mainly in the early stages of the works by construction demolition companies. Category 2 is the transport, traceability, and storage. This category includes good practices mainly carried out by waste transport companies. Category 3 is reuse, recycling, recovery, and quality. This category includes good practices implemented by companies responsible for recycling or reusing construction and demolition processes, as well as companies responsible for ensuring the quality of these processes and products for their new users. And 4, last but not least, is the policies awareness. So this category includes good practices mainly implemented by public administrations. As you can see, all these categories derive from aspects, relevant aspects, directly taken from the EU protocol. For those who know that the EU protocol, probably that you remember that it is based on 7 principles needed to, let's say, enhance the 5 elements contributing to reach the main 2 objectives of the protocol. So we have derived these categories from the principles taken directly from the EU protocol. Transfer the practice to policy instrument. We have so far selected 50 good practices from the project partners following the 4 categories I've just shown you before. And we have collected them in a document which we have named the best practices collection. Then the project partners will choose the good practices to transfer in their territory policies through the 7 policy instruments identified in the project. As I said before, these 50 good practices are those which have been considered the good practices by each participating partner in the project. But this doesn't mean that all of them could be good for each partner in other territory, or that they are meritorious to be transferred. We have to accurately select them on the basis of the capacity to be transferred and to be sustainable in each territory, or at least in the territory of the partner which wants to transfer them. And finally, each transfer process will be monitored through an action plan approved by the legal representative of each partner. This is the second phase of the Interreg Europe project, which is very important because once we have decided for the good practices we want to transfer in our territory, we have to be very decisive and decide officially that we'll do the impossible to transfer it on our territory using our own resources, meaning economically and administratively. So the transferability of good practices among partners requires a technical and economic feasibility as well as a political consensus. If I want to transfer a good, let's say, transport good practice from the Syria region, I need to know exactly how this practice was implemented in the Syria region, how much did it cost, and how was technically implemented. But I also need to know how it was encouraged by the political level in order to transfer it in my territory. So in order to have a technical economic feasibility, the project is preparing an analysis, a cost-benefit analysis for each of these 50 good practices. While for the political consensus, we are drafting policy brief to updating the territorial politics and the European sector policies that will contribute to transfer lessons learned behind the partnership. So this is a very long process because we are taking 5 years, 3 years to identify the good practices, to select them, and to understand if they are really transferable from one territory to the other. And the other 2 years remaining are to soundly transfer these good practices using our policy instruments and following an action plan which has to be monitored during the time with a time plan. I think that these are some pictures from our experience. I think that Interreg Europe it's a really mainstream program because it provides, especially the territorial governments and the territorial agencies, to develop projects and to transfer the good practices if the political will is supporting this. So it's very important to have a political will, a political support, because Interreg Europe is not like Horizon, which is mainly based on the innovation technology. It is based on technology, as I said before. So we are drawing good practices, even on a technical level, of course. But in order to understand if a good practice is good and adaptable in a territory, the political level is fundamental. So a good work in these projects has to be made on two different fields: technical sound work and the research for consensus around the different good practices identified. And that's all. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. It's a very interesting issue to be treated. And now I pass to Peter to introduce the next one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the next and the last presentation in our session is Mintegra Eco, a systemic model and operational application to the social habitation and circular economy. So I would see the project that is treating socio, environmental, economic aspects, maybe integrating some cultural approach. So Selene, it's up to you to present.
Thank you. Hello everybody, my name is Selene. I'd like to thank the organization of this event, actually the organizers, for the opportunity you give us to present our systemic methodology. I'm going to present some slides on its application in the civil construction area and circular economy. So let's go. Slides.
We are not seeing. Okay.
It's coming. It's coming to
it's coming.
Our
yes,
screens.
It's coming. Yes.
That's okay.
Yes.
Yes, we see the slides.
Can you? Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, well, the title of my presentation is Mintegra Eco, Systemic Model in Operational Application to Social Housing and Circular Economy. My technological partner, Oswaldo Serrano de Oliveira, consultant in Caixa Econômica Federal, Brazil, in the 2000 time of the first application, the Mintegra methodology to the solid waste areas. The Mintegra Eco methodology applied in several projects of social environmental impacts in Brazil has become a reference as a systemic methodology for innovation. As an example of a successful application of this methodology, we mention the Bahia Azul Environmental Education Program, considered one of the largest sanitation programs in Latin America. Is this specific work a case of application of this methodology we presented in the Pataxós indigenous villages communities located in the south of Bahia, Brazil, is there a little critique on the application of this methodology in the of solid waste area. Case 1 consisted of training indigenous communities to build their own housing units. The challenge was very great because these communities had to break a historical paradigm of not enjoying working and not having discipline. Proposal. Construction of 120 housing units, area 50 square meters in the village of Aldeia Velha. Activities: addition and organization of working materials, training of 120 indigenous families, monitoring of the works to civil technical assistance, organization and mobilization of the community to act together in the construction. In the operational aspect, the training read in approach on use of cement, the masonry soil, rainwater harvesting. In these processes, they became active in the elaboration of content and social events. If we said the working technique. Main challenges: the status of indigenous communities in public intervention. This strategy stems from the history of anthropological impacts and the difficulties in dialogue integrating scientific and technological content with ancestral knowledge. The innovation, it stands out in relation to the following aspects. 1, practical support for the social and technological processes. 2, systematization of content. The planning is carried out in the 3 dimensions. 1, strategic linear over time. 2, definition of the structural pedagogy of its and courses. 3, circular integration. Houses in units were built by the indigenous beneficiaries themselves, which contributed to their professionalization, generating employment and income. The conquest of the confidence of the indigenous communities was maintained through constant dialogue, constant actions, and compliance with all technical and social prerequisites. Impacts of Integra Eco. The social methodology, in addition to mitigate negative environmental and the social impacts, acts as a support in the structuring process and therefore changing attitudes towards a new enterprise. The housing units built using this methodology are higher quality than those built by civil construction companies. Regarding social and ethical changes, the perception perception of the intervention is evaluated positively by the indigenous people at 6.4. 51.6% of the participants claim to have worked as a bricklayer after the application of Integra. Recognition in the award Best Social Technology, the ABC, in the social relevance category. In the final assessment after the construction, the housing units, it was clear that the integration of knowledge-led work, integrated management platform for social house Integra Casa. The Integra methodology can be applied in the other environments, including the internal environments of companies, helping circular and interactive management internally and externally. For this purpose, the company EcoRestech is developing two offerings based on this methodology. Now, I invite Mr. Osvaldo Serrano to talk about the application of Integra for the solid waste area. Thanks. Osvaldo?
Okay. Thank you, Selene, my partner and friends. Thank you to the organization of this event. Thank you for this opportunity to talk a little about an important experience. I'm an engineer in water supply and sewage, and I worked for more than 36 years in Caixa Econômica Federal. It's a public financial institution in Brazil, a federal bank for developing in urban projects for municipalities. And around the year 2000, we have an important experience in partnership with Integra in a municipality named Mata de São João, in a beach in Bahia named Praia do Forte, where we could extract very important conclusions. At that time, I was working at the management of research and studies at Caixa, studies in technical for housing, water supply, solid waste, sewage. And so we start at the time, I stood and by this affinity with Integra, because this affinity was born an important study in this municipality. This methodology we work as a rich laboratory in which we extract valuable lessons in the field of community mobilization from the work of raising awareness in society and its various aspects: public sector, private sector, schools and communities, environmental education, selective collection, reuse and recycling, basic parts of integrated urban environment management. All of these contents contribute to improve the concepts of urban management at Caixa. We note that the methodology has contributed in the improvement of public policies for popular housing and sanitation in Brazil. Currently, these contents are moving towards the circular economy, which propose to keep technological and biological materials circulating in the environment as long as possible. The evolution and the integration of these contents has led to the creation of a new project in a digital basic by EcoRecitec in partnership with research institution, Mintegri 4.0, a platform to assist the integrated management of solid waste in this concept. Well, my participation in this panel is fundamentally to give you a testimony, basically, of this important experience for Caixa Econômica Federal at the time. This experience changed the way we look for urban programs, bringing to these programs basically the circular economy of in the experience in solid waste. So this is the reason Selene asked me to give you in a few minutes this testimony of this experiencing around the year 2000. That's it. It's just a few words I'd like to give you, and thank you for this opportunity once more.
Thank you for the presentation. Selene, would you like to wrap up?
Yes.
Selene, we can see you. Would you like to add something more to the presentation, or the cycle is finished? Okay, okay.
Finish. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those two interesting presentations and approaches. According to my list, we are done. So maybe Laura, should we start the panel discussions?
Yes, thank you, Piotr. I was watching in the chat if we have questions for the speaker, and I don't think we don't have it.
If not, I would have a couple of questions. Okay. So if possible, we can start with the first speaker, who is you.
Okay.
So it was a very interesting summary and overview of the actions that you have been doing and you are still doing. You were mentioning a couple of activities. So for example, the workshop you are working on construction and buildings. So I was interested if there's some kind of link, or can somebody else join the workshop as an observer, for example, and construction and buildings. And also another question, we have construction demolition waste. So I'm working on the project of landfill directive, where we are looking with geointelligence on terrain, trying to see if the landfills are conformant. Have you been also considering geointelligence, so remote control of different things?
Okay, thank you, Piotr, for the questions. The first one about the workshop. The workshop will be online, and everyone can participate. There is a link on the Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform website, okay. And the workshop is foreseen in the morning of the November 4th.
Okay.
November 4th. The session will be organized with will be quite short, 1 hour and a half, and we'll have first part of the session dedicated to 2 or 3 speeches from the framework of the workshop, which will explain the paper that we have prepared for discussion with the Commission, and then 2 other speeches on different topics. Then we have an interactive session with stakeholders that will be connected by remote. And we will try to use also different tools to involve stakeholders' opinion in order to, and probably we are working on it, but we will send to them questionnaire before, and then we will try to catch their opinion by using, for example, Slido tools or similar, in order to get from stakeholders the most possible, because the point of the workshop is focusing on the topic and also focusing on the papers that we have prepared for the platform. And we would like to stress and to have the stakeholders' opinion on maybe a few points, but having some outputs from stakeholders at the end of the workshop. Okay, maybe few points, but clear.
I see.
Okay,
Very
thank you very much.
Yeah.
The other question is about construction demolition. Yes, we are talking about construction demolition because construction demolition waste are in Italy, but also in Europe, a very huge problem, because there are the largest amount of waste we produce. And as you mentioned correctly, there are several stocks of waste, let me say, more or less abandoned. Yeah. And for sure, from a technological point of view, using remote sensing could be a way to understanding the amount of stocks available in Italy, also in Europe or whatever, in order to understand both the environmental problems related, but also in order to understand the potential of recovery of materials which are stocked in this kind of, let me say, secondary mining. Okay, so the answer is for sure yes. There are several studies on this, also on the quantification of the stocks in the buildings. According to the, let me say, the mining engineering approach, in order to understand as the buildings were mines, when and how the materials inside the buildings can be used, maybe in this case, according to the normal dynamic for the recovery of buildings, or maybe the demolition of buildings. For example, in Italy there are several buildings, as probably Professor Franz knows very well, that are from a period which was not so happy from a technological point of view, from 96 to 1980 in the last century. And there are some studies that will probably foresee that in the future would be more suitable to demolish this kind of buildings rather than renew them. And by the way, probably in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, I don't know, but we will have a huge amount of materials that must be recovered, not shall be recovered, must be recovered,
Of course, yeah.
And shall be taken into consideration in the normal design of the raw materials extraction. Okay, this is more or less the point. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you very much for your answers. I think it's the topic I would personally go through. So I will maybe read some additional papers on it, because it's also interesting from my point of view of, for example, anthropogenic soils, where we can find still some elements. So very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Piotr.
Laura. Second presentation, maybe Juliana, you have...
Yes, for Nicola. Nicola, I would like to ask which were the more challenging issues you faced during the research process, and if you have already applied it in an industrial scale project, and if yes, if you have related and reported yet some results, would be interesting to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliana, for your questions. In fact, the more difficult issue was to have an accurate view of all the possibilities offered by the cement industry to use the stabilized matrices. In fact, it was quite difficult because there are various installations and they have not all the same rules because they use different processes, some variations who can have big impacts on the feasibility or not according to the rules of acceptance by the special special plant. About the size of the experiment, the study was made besides another project. It was an ongoing study on the basis of observations and how can we manage such contaminations, because during our field test there was unfortunately an incident with a dog who fall into such a pool of tar, and it dispersed a lot of coal tar around the tank, and so we used this crushed clay to try to manage the damages. But it was interesting also for us to consider any interesting strategy using this available material, and how it could be finally used in reintroduced in circular economy through energy recovery, because finally it is the only way to manage such hazardous waste. So finally, unfortunately, we cannot have found to go on at upper scale this project.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for your clarification. Thank you. Piotr, if you have another question for the next.
I was looking through the chat, so for the time being, there's no. Right? But I have maybe another question to Gianfranco Franz. I really like the approach where we have to connect circularity to culture and maybe to promote it. I know personally several architects from UAV University in Venice. Yes. And I also have seen that you're working with urban planners, with School of Architects. My curiosity is culture currently included, for example, in your, let's say, lessons or lectures? How you personally promote it, just to see how it evolves?
Sure. Yes, for instance, I studied in Venice, in UR, and so I know very well the context. And of course, culture is in a wider sense is something that is involving humanities or urban studies and social studies in terms of popularization, representation, and novels and arts, etc. And finally, it became a sort of issue of communication. To communicate all our efforts that are very, very specific, very sectoral, very scientific in this sense, and very difficult for regular people, also for administrators, local administrators that are not prepared sometimes in this. And the problem is that usually all the when I teach, when I'm doing presentation on sustainability, on circular city, circular economy, or smart city, etc., I'm always speaking about how to involve, how to translate scientific and technical knowledge in a narrative for people, for communities, because usually people in community, they are listening, they are hearing, but they forgot. It's too complicated, too far, too intangible, and this is especially for firms, etc. So when I see that heritage and the culture of heritage is a good driver to make easier to understand the importance of sustainability, of also livability in the city, etc. People understand heritage something more easier than scientific forecast and what is happening with the glacier melt, etc. And we don't use these tools, or we use very few the tool of culture, of popular communication and narratives and fiction, also fiction. It's very important, and Europe doesn't invest a lot. Just a short tale. Yesterday I was in a school of theater for younger actors in my city. making a discussion with them about Anthropocene and planetary boundaries, etc. And trying to understand, because they want to do something in terms of performances and theater representation on sustainability and climate change. So most of them, they only knew something about Rio de Janeiro, 1992. That is important. Sustainability, yes, very important. We have to close the water when we brush our teeth. And this is a problem. After 30 years from Rio de Janeiro, 35 years from the Brundtland report, we have young people, smart people, creative people, and they sometimes nothing about planetary boundaries, very few about Anthropocene, a very small competencies on knowledge on ecological footprint. And when we discuss, but do you know ecological footprint or carbon footprint? There is a difference, is the same. And this was totally, and these people is 20, 25 years old. So this is a problem. We can discuss for centuries in our circles and never being effective in this.
I see. Thank you. Thank you very much for these considerations, because they are very important. And of course, I do agree that we have to, let's say, show by example and then integrate this in our daily discussions with our audience. So thank you very much, Gianfranco.
You're welcome. Thank you to you. Yes.
Juliana or Laura, maybe you have some questions for somebody?
Yes. Can I?
Juliana, please.
No, Juliana?
Laura.
Sorry,
okay.
sorry.
Laura. Okay. Okay, thank you. I have one question for Selene. And so thank you for your interesting presentation. I would like to, since your presentation, your example is a sort of translation of the culture into this project, is an example of mixing the technology with the culture. Do you think that your methodology could be applied to more bigger projects?
Lana?
Hi everyone, I'm Lana. Selene and Osvaldo are facing some technical problems right now, so I will be speaking in their behalf. Could you please repeat the question, please?
Yeah, the question is, your work is something which is, let me say shortly, mixing together the culture of the indigenous people with the need to have the constructions, a built environment for them, okay? You mix together these two issues. Do you think that the methodology you use in this case, that was applied just to 120 new building, can be more probably applied to a more extensive project, for example, for cities or part of the cities or part of an urban area or something like this, that you can use this methodology for taking into account the need for local people, their behavior and whatever, and to design together with them the local built environment.
Okay. First of all, she'd like to apologize to Alessandro Drago for interrupting his presentation earlier. So I'll be waiting for her response right now.
Okay. I cannot see any.
O projeto ele pode ser aplicado em larga escala e em pequena escala.
we have some problems facing with
so
cidades também. Diga que no Bahia Azul foi aplicado em várias cidades.
She said that the project can be applied in a larger scale and probably cities too. And Bahia Azul, this one extension of the project, was applied in 16 cities.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we still have 5 minutes, so maybe there's a time for the last question, if any. Laura, Giuliana, maybe.
Yes,
Giuliana.
to Alessandro. Laura, if you have another one,
yes, okay.
No problem.
Okay, no, go ahead with Alessandro. Okay.
Okay, Alessandro, since you mentioned that your project is a long-term project, right? To find and to write the policies, I would like to understand which are the best points you find out during the process that you have done until this time. The best points, I mean, emerged for the policies, okay? And which are the next steps that you are planning to do?
Okay, one consideration is that, as I mentioned before, you know, the environmental legislation is basically almost equal for the member states. So sure. the case is that there are some states, some regions, but mainly states that are more ready or faster to adopt a European directive or to implement a regulation or to receive a decision from the Commission. And there are some others which are slower. They have some difficulties in, let's say, adopting a new legislation or to implement it on the territory. This project gives us the opportunity to check in a European level who are the regions and the states which have been which have better performed in adopting the environmental legislation on the territory. It's a very good occasion for us because in our case, it has been mentioned before by others too, sometimes we are not, I'm talking like, let's say a functional of the territorial government, we are not very fast, or we find some difficulties, obstacles, sometimes bottlenecks to identify the right method to adapt to a directive and or to apply a regulation. That's why I'm sorry to say, but we are among the countries, Italy, with more infringement procedures, especially in the environmental field. This is like, you know, a verification of the fact that we are slow in adapting to new European legislation in the environmental field. So this project, in my view, gives us the opportunity to verify how other territories have applied environmental legislation in their policies, in their legislative frameworks, and how they have implemented that. But to do this, the European Commission gives us quite a long term to decide which is the best practices we consider, we deem meritorious of being transferred into our territory, because we do believe it has been the right choice for that territory and could be the right choice for us. It gives us like 3 years to decide that, and then 2 other years to implement it, to apply it on our territory. So it's a good occasion, but it's a long term. unfortunately, long terms is time required, I think, to implement such a process, which, as it has been mentioned before, is not just a technical process or administrative, it's even cultural. I think that the political dimension is also a cultural dimension, not just, let's say, technically related, or it's an open-minding state of mind, let's say. It requires time to adapt the political imagination to let's say, to use other initiatives from other countries, even if these are those that have to be transferred into your country anyway, because I mean, you're under the European legislation. So the thing is, we are in a field that is European. It's a concurrent legislation. Okay, it's from the member states, but also from the European part. And in the waste management, of course, as all of you know, we are under the waste directive, as under other directives concerning the environmental safeguard, so it's a way to improve faster.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
So,
Laura, please.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think we are at the end of our workshop. I think we have a lot to do because the issue is quite complicated and quite to be improved for going towards the circular economy, but also toward the sustainability, and also, as Professor Franz mentioned before, the inclusion of culture in this in the built environment, also in the built environment as general terms. So I think there is a lot of work to be done from every one of us, and also from the future generation, not only from us. So thank you again to the speakers, to co-chairs, to the organizers, and to all the attenders to the meeting. And I wish to see you again in the next edition of Inertia. Thank you very much again.
Thank you to the chair, and
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Very fruitful. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. And I would like to invite you all to continue to participate on RainTech in the next session. That will start in a few minutes, talking about the guidance, the pilot test, and remediation. So please continue to participate with us. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Bye. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.